ganz kleine Einführung noch geben. Dr. Smith kommt aus New York vom Lenox Hospital und er arbeitet seit über 25 Jahren mit Drogensucht und deren Behandlung durch Akupunktur. Er hat also auch eine Association gegründet, die NADA, das ist die National Acupuncture Detoxification Association, und dieses Therapieprojekt ist weltweit mittlerweile in mehr als 500 Projekten vertreten. Ich denke mir, dass es für uns alle sehr interessant ist, wenn Dr. Smith heute Mittag sein Wissen und sein Können mit uns teilt und wir eine Einführung bekommen. Und ich freue mich wirklich sehr darauf und wünsche Ihnen auch viel Spaß. Thank you for being here.
This is now turned on. So we want to continue from what we did this morning. And obviously we're going to have a demonstration in a couple of minutes. First of all, I'm interested though what questions and concerns you might have. A lot of people stop me afterwards, and this helps me talk with you and not just off in the distance somewhere. So if some of you are thinking of some part of the topic that you liked or you want to learn more about, or some question, that would be very helpful for me. If not, it's all right, of course. I'll tell you, if you want to ask questions in German, if that makes it easier, that's certainly all right with me as well.
But I wanted actually to know which points we use by the mental patients we're talking about.
He's asking what points do we use with the psychiatric patients. I'm going to discuss two systems with you. One is to do the same ear points that we're using for the drug abuse patients, and the two is to use more like a TCM 5-element model. So I'm going to do that part second. We're going to stick with the ear points first. It'll be much easier to see how the ear points work once we get some responses, we get some interaction. Now, are there any other questions or comments before we proceed? No.
The second point is, do you use body acupuncture and core acupuncture together, or do you
He's asking, do I use ear and body acupuncture together or at different times? As a doctor, part of my responsibility is not just to treat individual people, but to set up a treatment system for a lot of people. So you set up a treatment system very often. You want to set up something that is very teachable and very reproducible. And so we use the ear acupuncture in ways that are convenient and then ways that are necessary in terms of treatment. For instance, I run a clinic for AIDS patients. Every week I see about 15. I have an assistant who does ear points on every one of the people before I start with the body points, because I want to settle people down and reduce fear and improve their focus, and then the rest of the treatment will go better. We used to think that we were using the ear points just for convenience, and that if we only knew the right body points, it would work a lot better. It took me several years to understand that that just is not the case. If I had to use body points for addiction, I would do less well than if I had to use ear points. I started out thinking just the opposite. I wrote several articles saying that it was just the opposite. You learn this big subject, and then you say, oh, well, most of it isn't important, we're just going to do this. Those are things that are not altogether obvious. But I remember sitting in the clinic, and we have a couple hundred patients a day for 20 years, so you get a lot of information. At a inmates are very convenient patients because they honestly refuse to come back. They honestly say, you don't know what you're doing, and you can tell whether something is happening. And I began watching to see which of the patients, we had staff who were very good at body point treatment, and we do, oh, we need to do extra, we need to do more. And number one, you didn't see the improvement. You saw the staff's desire for improvement. You didn't see the improvement. We take urines every day, you look at attendance, you can see who's doing well. Second bit of evidence, we used to have a protocol where we had byway and we had Aku, and we did that on everybody in addition to the ear points. And when you have a protocol, it's hard to know what is necessary and what just makes you feel good. And so one time I said, we're just going to not do these points in the hands. Make up a reason, just we're not going to do it for a month and see what happens. Well, first of all, the patients, none of the patients asked for it, which tells you a lot. And there didn't seem to be any change. We did the same thing with byway. These are very useful acupuncture points, but it doesn't mean I have to give you 2 kinds of noodles if I already gave you 1 kind of noodles, right? It could be enough. We eliminated this point, nobody asked for it. We used to have general medicine and drug abuse treatment all in the same room. So you'd have about 50 people a day with arthritis and all these things, 50 people a day just with drug abuse. And one of the drug abuse patients are historically considered to be very needy, very self-centered, very demanding. And I would do ear points in about a minute, and then I'd spend 20 minutes with this other person, listening to all their worries and the way you do when you're taking all these questions. Our drug abuse patients almost never ask for body points. And the body points hurt less often than the ear points, so that was quite clear to them. And the only time they did ask is when you had people who were high. And so they were out of it. And then they were asking for attention. But the people who wanted to get better, and if you walk 4 miles to the clinic and your life depends on it, you get into it, you want to get better. You don't want to have bad treatments, lousy treatments, second-rate treatments. Had people who were very concerned about second-rate treatments. You just didn't get that feedback. And so based on all these things, it becomes increasingly clear that these ear points have a value that is quite different than other treatments. It doesn't mean that I couldn't do almost the same with other points and so on like that. I don't see any indication I could do better. That throws you into an angry thing of why? Why is that true? And if that's true, how come I have to learn all these other things? Well, what is going on? This is an irritating discovery. Let me help you through some of that. We have in the Bronx people coming from all sorts of parts of the world, and we have a lot of immigrants coming from Puerto Rico, come from the farms, and you'll see a woman who's worked on the farm all her life, her toes don't go straight like that, toes spread out, because she's walked barefoot all her life. Very grounded, full of yin and earth energy. Well, in our program, we used to give everybody ear points just so people would have a chance to practice while they were waiting to get the arthritis treatments and so on. And most of the Americans, about 1/3 of the Americans who were not addicts, would fall asleep and show very obvious reactions to the ear points. Very often, so much so that you didn't even worry about their other problems until they got more stable. But these women from Puerto Rico, we treated a couple hundred of them, they never reacted to ear points at all. They would often say, well, when does the treatment start? The Americans would never say that, because even though they may not be falling out, they knew that they could feel something was happening. And it taught me, I think, that what we're doing with these treatments is we are grounding the person. We're developing not just the yin energy, but the whole energy that makes the body sort of steady and in one place. These women didn't need that. They lived all their life walking on the earth, and grounding is what they were good at. People in China and Asia over the centuries didn't need that. So if you don't need that, you're not going to discover a treatment for something that is not your problem. We look at all these machines that go back and forth, and we drink plastic all the time and so on like that. After a while, you do need these things. And you especially need these things if you've been frightened or traumatized or chemically deranged, so that you're not in your own process anymore. The ear is something that doesn't change very much from birth. It doesn't do a lot. It doesn't. The external ear doesn't have a lot of jobs to do. So this is a way of interacting with the baby in all of us, so to speak. This interacts with issues that are issues for a baby as well. And so I think these ear points are helping the person develop and grow and center again. And so if you had a person come in, for instance, who had lupus, and the person was very frightened and very disturbed and very panicked and very embarrassed, you might try the ear points for a week or two to settle that person down, to prepare them for your general acupuncture treatment. Many people are too frightened to, many people are too frightened to lay down on the bed. They're confused, they're not sure whether you're important or they're important, and basic things. And the ear acupuncture is just a preparation for basic things. A lot of times that's all a person needs. I would be the first to tell you that treating something like lupus, they need a lot more than that. And they need what you've gone to school to learn. But just because I know how to do a technique doesn't mean the person is in the right position to receive that technique. You have to prepare for these things. And this is a simple treatment. If you read the old Chinese medicine, you would get the impression that people took pulses early in the morning. They often did exercises and balancing exercises. You don't want to read the pulse. The person's afraid of you and nervous and doesn't know what's going on, something about them. And very often when we talk to people in the private office, the main thing we get is that they're afraid and nervous about being there with you. Nervous with themselves in all sorts of situations. That's in this kind of approach. Now, what I'd like to do fairly early is to get some examples, not so much so you can see me do the treatment, because you're not going to see very much. You'll see the back, and if you're interested in seeing the back of me, that's fine. These are very small needles, and that's it. But I want to observe and help us all listen to what the results are that the people might have. And that's what I'm interested in doing here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so what we need are 5 people. Do we have a lot of volunteers or next to no volunteers? If we have some volunteers, then they should... I try to tell the Americans that the Germans are more relaxed about these precautions than they are, and they have trouble imagining that, but that's true. Because that's not to say people here aren't careful and compulsive and all that, but that is to say that the Americans' reaction to these things have to do with fear and panic and projection, not logic. And that's my job, to treat fear and panic and projection. That's what we do, right? Now, this is very impressive that you all stay seated. That's good. No, that's a very good thing. Wonderful. Now, what I'm going to do is just do 3. your feet on the... So we had somebody else go with me say hello to him. Because that was when they had only doctors doing the treatment. Talk about how one feels with the needles in. Because you're just posing or you're dizzy. She's dizzy. That's the end of that. You're getting lightheaded, right?